The Rover Cam to get you up close and personal at the game. The domestic season, it has commenced at home. The international program, well, it may be a little less clear, but for All Black coach Ian Foster, the preparation, it never ends. We welcome Fozzie onto the breakdown for the first time in 2021. Great to have you with us, Fozzie. All right, 2020 is behind you now, your first season in charge with the All Blacks. What did it highlight for you, and have some of your priorities maybe changed as you go into the season?
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the new rugby year. It's exciting, isn't it? I think this year is, whilst it was a full year last year, it was only 6 tests, but it's certainly, I think, going into this year, with COVID and not really having 100% certainty, what it does do is it just focuses us on the here and now and maximising what we can get out of Super Rugby. I think it's the key. And I think for us, probably 2 areas emerged out of last year that we're really looking at in Super Rugby to try and see a little bit of a difference and lift in our game. One is just the overall skill level. I just felt that it's an area of massive advantage for the All Blacks and New Zealand rugby, but particularly the catch pass and the running lines is something that we've probably just relaxed a little bit, I think, and so we've really put that challenge out to players about their skill sets and just creating world-class habits each week. And the second thing is discipline. I think if you look at our campaign, when we had teams that niggled us and took us off task, we struggled, and yet when we mastered that, we were fine. And I think, us learning as a nation that teams want to stop us playing, they'll do a whole lot of different things, and we've got to be better than that. So the whole discipline aspect is going to be really key for us, and one that probably wouldn't start that well in round one.
Fozzie, on that comment, mate, I just want to ask you, so you sit there in the stand in Dunedin, can you give us a little bit of insight of what you're looking for? Do you spend 10 minutes looking at a player or two, or just looking at the broad sort of spectrum? What are you looking at this early on in the season?
Yeah, good question, Batesy. It really differs. Obviously there's myself, Foxy and Plum. Plum was at Wellington, and at this stage of the year, we're really looking just to see, just general patterns and flow, and just trying to see if we can understand what both teams are trying to do on the park, so that we can assess what the individual's role in that is. And down in Dunedin, there's plenty of names for us to look at. Particularly interested to welcome back Liam Squire into the park and to see how he went. So it was neat to see him back, and that's a good sign for the Highlanders. But primarily looking at overall patterns, particularly for this first round, and then we'll come together and narrow down some individual watching after that.
Positions, Fozzie. Beauden Barrett's over in Japan at the moment. You look at Richie Mo'unga, he's streaks above the rest. And when you look at the weekend, relatively inexperienced the other 10s. Is that a concern to you?
Yeah, look, it's not ideal that, in the last few years, we've probably had one All Black 10 playing regularly. And so there's, Bodie's expressed that he really wants to go back to 10 and put his hand up for them. And we're right in behind that move. It doesn't preclude the fact that we're still interested in him at 15, I guess, but it's, we know he's a world-class 10. He just needs time in the saddle. So, he is maximising his opportunity over in Japan and getting that. But it is good to see him back getting some consistent time there. And I think, you've just spoken to Damien, and he went across in our squad last year as our third 10. And, as a utility. But I'm a big believer that he can play 10, and the skill sets he shows at 15 are transferable, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes.
Through the course of Super Rugby then, Fozzie, what are the conversations you might have with the franchises when you start talking about players and getting the understanding maybe of patterns of play? Is that quite an open book in terms of maybe getting the best development out of the guys you may be looking at?
Yeah, look, it's, we've already done a bit of a visit as a coaching group around each franchise, and just meeting with the All Black players and their coaches just to get alignment on the skill sets and the key focuses for each player. And that's really important, that the player doesn't get any mixed messages in that space. And from now on, we've got the ability to, we've still got the ability to have a chat to the player occasionally, but, primarily most of our feedback now is really by talking to their coaches, having a look at what they do. And, you know, we've got some great people in our franchises who are working with the players, and as long as we can keep alignment with them on particularly the skill levels that we want and how they're going about that's the key for us. So there'll be regular visits from the different coaches, from our trainers and medical staff, and a lot of that's done on a need basis. So there's plenty of talk going on.
Fozzie, I won't hold you to this one, but we obviously know it's a COVID world at the moment. But last year you got 6 tests in. What is the schedule if all goes to plan for the All Blacks this year?
Yeah, well, we've got the plan at the moment is 15 test matches, which I'm not sure the All Blacks have ever played 15 test matches, so it's pretty big. And you know, so we're in the process of working our way through that, and clearly, you know, there'll be checkpoints as we go along based on borders, and because obviously the border opening is going to be key for us, I guess, later in the year. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, keeping an eye on plans, and you know, like, I mean, ultimately there will be some other plans happen that if borders get shut down, but there is a desire to play a lot of rugby, and you know, who knows? You know, we might even end up with a whole lot of countries in one country playing a mini World Cup if COVID, of course, that who knows what's going to happen. But I mean, I do know that we've got a big year planned.
In that regard then, if you're looking at that year, is Super Rugby Aotearoa critical in terms of preparing you for that when you realistically, when you're going to have a big group of players, you'll probably have to engage in the All Black environment?
Yeah, well, Super Rugby's always been vital for All Black rugby, and it's always been a great preparation point. So nothing changes from that side, but you know, it's probably become a even more vital component now because of the uncertainty of the international games. So, yep, it is important, you know, and you know, what we are getting is we've got to make sure we've got players that are really resilient. You know, we know whatever the challenges are. You look at the Blues now, that their normal prep has been changed, and players just have to ride along, and I'm sure there'll be the same sort of adjustments later in the year. So we're really looking for players who can deal with what's in front of us right now, and not get too caught up in the changes that will occur, and they'll probably be more ahead of us. But we need players who really just want to knuckle down, deal with the challenges, and get on and play a great game of rugby. And let's talk about that. If there's one thing you'd love to see in regards to Super Rugby Aotearoa, in terms of the game, not individuals, but in terms of the way the game is played, what would excite you the most as the All Black coach? Yeah, it's a really good question. Well, I think if I looked at what we learned, and you go back to your first question, I'd really like to see our skill set go up and up and up, and have players really master the basics parts of the game, because you know, the whole shapes and patterns of games, everyone's got a slightly different picture of that, but what we can control is the basics of our game, and I think that's key. And Super Rugby is great for that, because there's a lot of pressure on. There's a lot of players who know players, and so there's always a bit of mate versus mate going on, and the ability for players to get distracted. So how they hold their attention in that space, and coupled with that, like I said earlier, is us being able to get really disciplined in how we go about it. And what I mean by discipline, it's not just doing something stupid. It's just not getting distracted from our core job. And you know, we do see that at Super Rugby, where guys needle each other, and because they know each other so well, and there's a lot of that going on, and it's a great place for us to practice how to stay in control, stay focused, and just go and do your job.
And you've got a big job in front of you, and we're grateful you joined us on the breakdown this early in the season to give us a bit of an insight where you're at, and we look forward to you catching up with you a little bit later on in the year. Thanks very much, Fozzie. 15 tests, you've got plenty to prepare for. Thanks, mate.
That's right. Thanks, guys.
15 tests. Don't know if it's been done before. Challenging, Mills, but reality is a lot of things he would have learnt in 2020. And I'd imagine there's a lot of players have gone away with some really clear messages about how they need to get back to make an impact at the next level.
Well, I think also the fact that they lost to Argentina, I think that would have given them a big, opportunity to be able to talk about those things. He's highlighted it's something that's been, very much I suppose a dominant bit of our game, and that's our skill set. So where do they need to go in there? They would have sort of broken that all down and made sure they went out to the toughest part is the pressure to be able to do those little skill sets, you know, and be able to affect them. That's what's going to be the key.
Actually, because I'll throw to you then, Bates, to the fact that wasn't that our secret for so long, is our ability to execute our skills under pressure? Was that what Ian Foster's talking about? That's what set us apart from a number of other teams?
Yeah, and I think he touched on it there as well. He said, like, within reason, patterns, attacking patterns and defensive patterns are very, very similar, you know what I mean, across the board. There's slight little chinks in every little system, but it's your ability to catch pass under pressure and have those sharp little skills. And we do have athletes in this country, and other countries are catching up with those athletes, but we have genuine athletes. You look at the loose forwards you've named, our outside backs, we have genuine athletes, and if we can get their skill set with their athletic ability, we still have an edge, I believe.
Well, he's given you an insight on what you should be looking for as you watch games, and some of you get the opportunity to watch that live if you go to the game. And here on The Breakdown, we are giving away 6 tickets to every Super Rugby game. Unfortunately, we cannot for this Friday in Hamilton, given to COVID levels. But they've pushed the game out in Christchurch and hopeful to get down to level 1. This is the Whanganga family, and they were at Sky Stadium in Wellington having a great old time. You make sure you get an opportunity to go to the breakdown at sky.co.nz to be in to win. If it is not level 1 in Christchurch, we'll push those tickets out to the next game there in Christchurch. We're just about there. Just quickly, who have you got this weekend? Just quickly.
Crusaders and the Chiefs.
The Crusaders and the Chiefs?
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same? Crusaders and Highlanders. I'm going to stay loyal right to the very end. It has been great to be with you once again. We're hopeful that we get an opportunity to be with you from Christchurch next Monday night. Mā te wā.